my name is Kel Shinghan. In fact, I never thought I would become a role in the category of saviors. A few years ago, I was just an international physicist who was buried in the laboratory and dealing with data and equations all day long. I was often called book idler. But now, I was standing in the pirate of a broken star cruise ship, looking at the endless darkness outside the porthole, and there was only one thought in my brain: we might really be finished. That darkness is not an ordinary cosmic vacuum, but a black purity in the center of the Silver River Galaxy. It is not an ordinary black hole, but a monster that is devouring everything at a speed visible to the naked eye. Its gravitational waves are like invisible giant hands, tearing the surrounding galaxies apart, and even time and space are twisted into pieces by it. The starship had long collapsed, and the Alliance's communication network also continued. Now the entire Silver Galaxy is like a leaking broken ship, which may not sink at any time. When I first proposed the threat of black purity, no one believed me. That was 5 years ago, at the annual meeting of the United Academy of Sciences. I took a bunch of data and simulation results and told the big guys who were sitting on the high position that an unusual black hole in the center of the Silver River was speeding up and that if we were not taken, we would be swallowed up by it for decades. But what about them? They just smiled and patted me on the shoulder, saying I was a creative guy, and then continued to discuss their international trade policies and colonial expansion plans. I was so angry that I almost smashed the table on the spot, but it was useless. Who would believe the doomsday prediction of a young scientist? It was not until 3 months ago that He-Jing suddenly exploded with a supergravitational wave, directly crushing more than 10 planetary systems in the core star domain of the Alliance into pieces, and tens of billions of people instantly evaporated, and they were panicked. The Alliance conference called an emergency meeting every night, and then a group of officials in uniforms came to me and said embarrassingly, "Dr. Kale, we need your help." I really wanted to sneer at that time and told them to eat shit, but looking at the dead bodies of the planets that were swallowed by blackness on the communication screen, I was still stuck. It's not because I'm so noble, but because I don't have to choose. My family galaxy is also on the list of swallowed up. Although it's gone nowhere, I still feel like I owe something. So, now I am here, carrying a team of temporary struggles, ready to get rid of the dark zone around the dark side to find something in the story Time and Space Anchor. It sounds very irrelevant, right? A magical artifact that can reverse the black hole and expand. It sounds like a fairy tale compiled by a crazy scientist. But there is indeed a record in the Alliance's archives, saying that this thing is a technology left by a remote civilization, which can stabilize the time and space structure and may even close the black hole. The problem is that no one knows where it is, and no one knows whether it exists or not. The dark area is the most dangerous belt around the black sphere. The gravitational field is like a flesh arm, and even the most advanced starships may be torn to pieces, not to mention that there are various neurotic vanguards and gangs of black holes that worship black holes. Kel, are you sure we won't hit that big black hole in one head? A low voice broke my thoughts. I turned over and saw old Gray Tianqiong leaning against the wall of the guide, holding a glass of inferior synthetic wine that I had made from. He is the actual helm of the ship, a retired starship commander, full of beards, and his eyes are filled with fatigue to see through everything. He once fought on the edge of the Black Siege by the leader, watching his teammates torn to pieces by gravitational waves, so he knew more than anyone how crazy we were in this mission. Old Gray, I'm a scientist, not a fortune teller. I snatched my shoulders and tried to make the atmosphere relaxed, but my palms were actually full of sweat. I've calculated the navigation line. The Shield of Dawn can withstand the outer gravity of the dark area. As long as we don't kill ourselves and pierce the black-purple core, we should be able to live to reach the first detection point. Why? He raised his eyebrows, took a sip of wine, then grinned, revealing his mouth and yellow teeth. Young man, I like your joy, but you have to know that I don't want to be sucked into black holes as snacks. I didn't answer, just turned around and stared at the darkness outside the porthole. To be honest, I have no idea. Although Dawn is an urgent ship of the Alliance, it has long been in service, and the engine will emit strange sounds from time to time, and the shield system will even report 2 alarms in 3 days. If it weren't for the fact that the Alliance could have sent any ships, this broken thing would have been to the waste recycling bin long ago. Kel, the data has been updated. Another voice came from the corner of the guide. The language was as cold as a robot. I turned over and saw Leah, sitting in front of a bunch of display screens, her fingers pounding on the virtual keyboard quickly. She is the black hole data analyzer in our team, a somewhat mysterious woman, always wearing a black tight-fitting battle suit, with no expression on her face. She has a unique and can extract information from radiation signals along the black hole. She heard that this ability was unexpectedly obtained in a black hole exploration mission a few years ago, and the price was that she lost some of her memory. She never mentioned the specific memory, and I didn't ask. What's new? I walked to her and looked down at the jumping stream on the screen. Those curves and numbers may be no different to ordinary people, but to me, they are the heartbeats of blackness. The gravitational wave frequency of the black purifier has changed again, 7.3% higher than expected. Leah's voice was still so calm, but her fingers stopped for a moment, as if she wanted to continue talking. Also, I detected some abnormal fluctuations in the signal, which were not formed naturally, like some kind of code. Code? I raised my eyebrows and my heart skipped a beat. Are you saying that someone deliberately sent a signal? Or is he saying that the black selves itself is talking? She raised her head and looked straight at me with gray eyes, without any emotion. I don't know. But this kind of wave is not random, it has rules and structures. If it is a natural phenomenon, its complexity is beyond our understanding of black holes. If it is not, then we may not be dealing with a single pure physical phenomenon. I felt a little behind. There have been rumors in the Alliance that black purity is not just a black hole, but something older and more terrifying, and may even be intentional. In the past, I only thought that it was nonsense. After all, scientists should not believe these ghosts. Kriya's discovery made me wonder if I was too naive. Don't explain first, save the data, and wait until the first detection point is reached before doing in-depth analysis. I firmly put on the deck, patted her on the shoulder, and then turned back to my position. But the brain is full of bad thoughts. If the black purity is not formed naturally, if there is something behind it, then our mission is not just as simple as finding a magical tool to save the world. Be careful, prepare to enter the dark area. Old Gray's voice started to broadcast the boat, interrupting my thoughts. The shield is fully open and the engine power is increased to 85%. Everyone is in charge of the safety belt. Don't blame me for not reminding you, there will be some trouble next. I sat back to my seat and put on my safety belt, feeling my heartbeat as fast as if I was about to jump out of my chest. The darkness outside the porthole became increasingly heavy, like a light that could swallow everything. The dawn sign began to vibrate slightly, as if it had entered a certain turbulence. The numbers on the plate jumped wildly, indicating that the gravitational field was growing rapidly. The first wave of gravitational wave hits, arrives in 3 seconds. Leah's voice came from the communication device, making people crazy with the coldness. The shield loading is expected to rise to 67%, and the system is stable. 67%? Can this broken ship withstand it? I couldn't help but ask, even though I knew this question was in vain. It can be done theoretically. Leah's answer was so short that I wanted to roll my eyes. It took 3 seconds quickly. The next moment, the entire ship seemed to be pulled by some huge force. Everyone was thrown forward by habitually, and then was taken back to their seats by safety. I heard someone screaming behind me, and something fell to the ground and broke. The scene outside the porthole became even more distant, with some blue-purple arcs flashing in the dark, as if time and space were cracking. When the first wave of attacks passed, the shield loaded 71%, and the system was still stable. Leah's voice sounded again, and this time I heard a relaxed voice. 71%? Aren't you saying 67%? I gritted my teeth and felt like I was about tortured by this broken ship. There is a mismatch, it's normal. Her temperament was still so calm. I really doubted whether she was a robot. Old Gray laughed in front of him and turned over and blinked at me. Young man, just behave. The dark area is not a tourist destination. Next, there are more exciting things. Prepare your stomach. I was not in the mood to return to him, but just grabbed the handrail of the seat tightly and stared at the increasingly heavy darkness outside the porthole. The gravitational field of black purity is like an invisible monster that may tear us apart at any time, and we still have to fly in to find something that may not exist at all. I began to wonder if I was crazy before I took on this task. Kel, the second wave of gravitational wave comes, with a strength of 15% higher than the first wave. Leah's voice sounded again, and this time her language finally got a tight end. The shield load may be close to the limit, and it is recommended to reduce engine power and reduce frontal impact. Reduce power? Then we will become floating targets? Old Gray asked, with a burst of impatient voice. Little girl, I know you care about data, but I care about life. The engine power will not change, so I will bear it. Hard bearing may lead to the collapse of the shield. Leah's voice became cold, as if she did not agree with Old Gray's decision at all. It's over. I slammed them loudly and felt like my head was almost blowing. Old Gray, listen to Leah, reduce the power to 70%, we can't take the entire ship. Leah, monitor the shield data, report any abnormalities immediately. Neither of them spoke anymore, but the atmosphere was very stiff. I rubbed my son acupoint and felt that I was not leading a team, but resolving family disputes. Just as we entered the dark area, there were differences in the team, and we still didn't know what would happen later. The speed of dawn slowed down, and the second wave of gravitational wave arrived as expected. This collision was even more powerful than before. The entire ship seemed to be thrown into the washing machine, shaking wildly. I bit my teeth and heard the harsh warning sound from the shield system on my ears, and silently prayed in my heart that this broken ship could hold it. The shield is loaded 89%, the system has passed the warning. Leah's voice finally brought a hurried look. If there is another third wave of impact, we might dash. Close your mouth. Old Gray roared, then pulled the slug suddenly. The dawn suddenly turned rapidly, as if trying to hide something. Without reacting, I heard a deep bird coming from outside the hull, as if something was passing by the hull. What a ghost thing. I couldn't help asking, and felt that my heart was about to stop. It's not gravitational waves, it's a fragment flow. Old Gray gritted his teeth and replied, sweating all over his head. The dark area is where the planet's slaughter is torn apart by the gravitational force of the black slaughter and turned into a high-speed balloon. We were almost hit by a stone that stretched 10 meters straight. I swallowed and felt cold sweat on my back. The gravitational wave has not been solved yet, and the fragments have come again, and this place is simply a death trap. Leah, scan the surrounding environment and find the dense areas of the debris flow, and we have to go over. I tried to make my voice sound calm, but in fact my hands were shaking. It was scanned, but the radiation interference of the black rays is too strong, and the data may not be accurate. Leah's answer made my heart fall halfway. At this moment, a sudden noise came from the communication, as if someone was trying to contact us. I raised my eyebrows, adjusted the frequency, and heard a low and sandy voice. Dawn, can you hear it? I'm Victor Nuclear Eater. You're looking for something good, why don't we talk? I felt nervous and immediately the relevant information about this name appeared in my brain. Victor Nuclear Eater, the head of a notorious star plunderer, was moving around the dark area with a group of trauma, saying that they regarded Black Purple as a god, believing its power could evolve humans. The Alliance had long since gained his head, but the guy slipped like a mud and had never been caught. Victor, what do you want to fuck? I asked coldly, trying to cover my anxiety. The dark area is not a game for you nerds. Without my help, you can't even touch the dark side. Why not make a deal? You share the information about the time and space anchor with me, and I guarantee that you can leave this ghost place alive. I bit my teeth and didn't answer immediately. Victor clearly knows our goals, which shows that he has an internal line, or that our actions have been monitored long ago. But cooperate with him? That's nothing different from seeking death. This guy is not trustworthy at all. How about it? Think about it. His voice continued to be transmitted from the communication device, with a burst of impatient feeling. I don't have much patience, Dawn. I took a deep breath, turned off the communications, and turned to look at Old Gray and Leah. Their faces were not good-looking, and they obviously heard the conversation just now. We won't work with him, I said, with a firm spirit. This guy is a crazy guy. He wants to be a time-space anchor, not to save people, but to use the power of black purity to slap things even more crazy. Agree. Leah clicked a little, and a look flashed in her eyes. But we have to be careful, since he can contact us, tell us that his ship is nearby. Old Gray snorted and wiped the sweat from his head. Young man, I don't object to your decision, but you have to know that Victor is not a single snatcher. He has at least 3 reinstalled warships under his command, and the firepower can turn our broken ship into slag. If he really wants to slap us, the Dawn can't escape at all. I didn't say anything, just stared at the darkness outside the porthole. The gravitational field, fragment flow of black hair, and now with Victor's threat, this task is simply an impossible challenge. But I didn't have to choose, the fate of the Silver River and those who were still waiting for us were all pressing on my shoulders. Continue to move forward. I finally opened my mouth, my voice low and firm. We have to face it whether it's Black or Victor. Leah, strengthen the scan and find the nearest detection point. Old Gray, keep the line, don't let us get smashed into iron by the flow of debris. Both of them were staring, and although the atmosphere was still heavy, at least we had a goal. The Dawn moved forward slowly in the dark, like passing through a soundless storm. I know that this is just the beginning, and a bigger challenge is waiting for us ahead. Dawn is difficult to move forward in the darkness of the dark area, like a wounded little beast that may be swallowed by invisible giant beasts around at any time. The darkness outside the porthole was so thick that it could not be melted, and occasionally there was a blue-purple arc of light flashing, which was the shadow left by the time and space being distorted by the black gravitational force. The ship kept squeaking sounds, as if it would fall apart at any time. I sat in the seat of the guide, my palms were covered in sweat, my eyes were fixed on the data on the archway, and my brain was full of all the messages that had just been Victor nuclear eating. Kel, the scan results are out. Leah's voice came from the headphones, still the cold and crazy language. There is a stable gravitational trough about 30,000 kilometers ahead, which may be the first detection point. But there is a high-density debris flow around it, so it is recommended to walk around, which will take about 6 hours more. 6 hours? Old Gray snorted, and the squirting rod in his hand adjusted slightly, and the course of Dawn deviated slightly. Miss, do you know that staying in the dark area for an extra second is a life-threatening moment? We have to go straight and flow into pieces. The hard risk is that the shield is overloaded, with a probability of up to 83%. Leah's voice did not fluctuate, as if she had expected Old Gray to object. If the shield collapses, we can't even touch the gravitational trough. I rubbed my son's pussy and felt my head hurt so much that it was about to explode. This person is old and young, one is as stubborn as a cow, and one is as cold as ice. Every time you discuss a question, you can start to argue. But time doesn't wait for anyone, and Victor's warship may catch up at any time, and we can't be able to procrastinate here. It's over, stop quarrel. I took a deep breath, and there was a burst of impatience in my language. Old Gray, we go, safety first. Leah, continue to monitor the debris flow density and report immediately if there is any change. I don't want to be smashed into a slug before reaching the detection point. Old Gray curled his lips, as if he was very upset, but he still adjusted the route. Leah didn't say anything, but just lowered her head and continued to tap the keyboard, and the data on the screen rolled like a waterfall. I leaned back to my seat, closed my eyes and tried to relieve the pressure, but my brain was full of bad thoughts. The unusual waves of black purity, the threat of Victor, and the time-space anchor that might not exist at all of this is like a huge group, which makes me breathless. Kel, you have to relax. Old Gray's voice suddenly rose, low and sandy, with a long concern. I have seen many young people, like you, carrying the pressure of the entire river galaxy, and sooner or later, they will be stormed. Just listen to me, living is more important than anything else. I opened my eyes quietly, glanced at him, and reluctantly smiled. Old Gray, thank you, but I don't have to choose. Black seldom will wait for us to relax, it is swallowing more galaxies every minute and every second. If we fail, no one can stop it. He didn't say anything anymore, but just pointed a little, and there was a complex emotion in his eyes, as if he had recalled something bad. I know that when he was fighting on the edge of the Black Siege, he looked at countless companions being torn to pieces by gravitational waves, and he probably wouldn't forget the fear and powerlessness. The debris flowing through the dawn is even more shaking than expected, and the ship is hit by the dead body by the slaughter of a small piece of bone, making a stern sound. 80%. I stood up, walked to Leah, looked down at the data on her screen, trying to distract myself. Leah, what you said just now is the abnormal fluctuation. Is there any further analysis result? I asked. The voice was very low, as if I was afraid of being heard by others. She raised her head, looked straight at me with gray eyes, and was silent for a while before she opened her mouth. Yes, but you may not like the results you hear. I felt a tight heart and signaled her to continue. The waving code structures are clearer. She clicked the screen and adjusted a set of complex waveform diagrams. This is not random noise, nor is it interpreted by natural phenomena. It has repetitive patterns, like a language, or a certain kind of instruction. Instructions? I raised my eyebrows and felt a slight back. Are you saying, Hao Xiao is talking, or is someone using it to send a signal? I can't tell. Leah's temperament was still so calm, but her fingers slightly, as if she had been scared by this discovery. But the complexity of this code is far beyond any communication technology we know. If it is human, then this person or force has a level of technology that is several levels higher than the Alliance. If it is not, then we may be facing a completely unknown existence. I swallowed, and my brain flashed the comments about Black Silly in the Alliance file library. Some people say it is a taboo at the beginning of the universe, some people say it is a real experiment of an ancient civilization that is out of control, and some even think it is a certain god. I never took these things seriously before, but now, Leah's discovery has made me wonder if I underestimate the black selves too much. Don't tell others first. I said softly, glanced at the other team members in the carriage. If this happens, the taxi and the team will collapse. We have to go to the detection point first, get more data before concluding. Leah clicked the head and didn't say anything more. I returned to my seat, and my heart felt like a big stone was pressing down. If the black selves are really conscious, or something behind them is controlling, then the danger of our mission is not just gravitational scenes and debris flows. As time passed, dawn finally passed the densest flow of debris, approaching the first detection point. It was a gravitational trough, and the space-time distortion around it was slightly weaker than elsewhere, suitable for short stays and data collections. Outside the porthole, you can see some floating bones in the dark, like planetary slaughter torn to pieces by black slaughter, slowly rotating in the gravitational field. Be careful, prepare to enter the detection point. Old Gray's voice was heard through the broadcast, carrying a burst of fatigue. The engine power is reduced to 30%, and the shield maintains maximum output, so don't let any small rocks smash our ship. Dawn slowed down, and the vibration of the ship obviously weakened, and I felt that I could finally take a breath. Leah has begun to adjust the detection equipment, and various data flows are dancing on the screen, like a dark heartbeat. Kel, the investigator, is working. She turned to me, and finally had a glimmer of language. We can collect high-energy radiation data from the edge of the black tin, which will be of great help in analyzing its expansion mechanism. Okay, do it as soon as possible. I clicked the head and turned to Old Gray. Old man, stay alert, that guy Victor may appear at any time. Don't worry, boy. Old Gray grinned, revealing his yellow teeth. I'm not blind, if there's anything wrong with me, I'll guarantee that I'll find it first. But as the voice fell, a sudden silence came from the communication device, followed by the familiar and sarcastic voice, Dr. Kale, I didn't expect you to come and explore the test points. You're so stupid. I felt a tight heart and looked at the communication equipment. It's Victor Nuclear Eat again. This guy is like a ghost that cannot be shaken off, always popping up at the most inappropriate times. Victor, what do you want to fuck? I asked coldly, trying to cover my anxiety. Don't be nervous, I'm just here to remind you. His voice was mocking, as if he had known every step we had. The detection point is not a safe belt. Your broken ship stays here, simply a target to send it to the door. Why not listen to me and hand over the information about the time and space anchor, and I will let you live a life. Do a dream. I gritted my teeth and turned off the communications without hesitation. Although I was nervous, I knew that talking to this kind of crazy person would only put myself in a more dangerous situation. Leah, speed up data collection. I turned to her, with a hurricane in my language. Old Gray, scan the surrounding environment, Victor's ship must be nearby. In the scan, but the radiation interference of the black skull was too strong, and the range of radar was compressed to only 1,000 kilometers. Old Gray replied, with sweat all over his head. If he really wanted to steal, we might not have time to react. I didn't say anything, just stared at the darkness outside the porthole. Although the gravitational trough of the detection point is relatively safe, it also makes us a fixed target. If Victor really came chasing with a warship, the broken ship of Dawn would not be able to run. The data collection is 45%. Leah's voice sounded, breaking the silence in the fingertips. But I detected a new set of gravitational waves that were approaching quickly and had a higher strength than before. Graining wave? Or Victor's ship? I asked hurriedly, my heartbeat accelerated. It's not a ship, it's a pure gravitational wave. Leah's language finally brought a tight pen. The source direction is the black core. It is expected to hit the detection point in 30 seconds, and the shield load may be directly poured to 100%. 30 seconds? Old Gray made a rough sentence and pulled the rod suddenly. Be careful with the whole thing and prepare for emergency evacuation. The engine power is increased to the maximum, and we have to run. No, the data collection has not been completed yet. Leah responded, with a rare urgency in her voice. If we evacuate now, we will be in vain. Buy is better than life-threatening. Old Gray yelled back, his face blue. Little girl, I won't let you die of death, but don't take us to bury us together. It's over. I slammed them with loud voice and felt my brain explode. Leah, continue to pick up the game and fight to complete it before the attack. Old Gray, ready to evacuate the route, but don't run ahead of time, we can't go back empty-handed. Neither of them spoke anymore, but the atmosphere was as tight as a string. The inverted time on the instrument panel decreased every second. I heard the alarm of the shield system on my ears, and silently prayed in my heart that the dawn signal could hold back this wave. 10 seconds. Leah's voice sounded, shaking with a silk shaking. The data collection completion rate is 87%, give me another 5 seconds. Your head in 5 seconds. Old Gray gritted his teeth and pushed the slam down. The Dawn engine roared and began to accelerate. The next moment, the gravitational wave arrived as expected, and the entire ship seemed to be grabbed by an invisible big hand, and then threw it out. I was so angry that I was thrown into the seat, and my chest hurt. There was a mess in the indicator, some people were shocked, some people were cursing, numbers on the instrument were jumping wildly, and the shield load was directly poured to 99.7%, and the alarm sounded as if it was about to penetrate the eardrum. The shield has passed the warning. The system is about to collapse. Leah's voice came from the communication device, and finally lost her usual coldness. Old Gray, hold on to the boat. I yelled, feeling like I was about tortured by this broken boat. I'm trying, he replied, gritting his teeth, his hands squeaking creaking. The dawn rolled like a tree in the gravitational wave, and the scene outside the porthole was completely distorted, as if it had entered a certain kind of nightmare. I don't know how long it took, but the impact finally weakened, and the vibration of the ship slowly calmed down. I gasped heavily, untied my safety belt, and stood up and looked around. The silence was in a mess, the equipment was scattered all over the ground, and several team members had white faces, as if they had just walked away from the ghost gate. "Leah, where's the data?" I asked, his voice as sandy as an old man. "The completion rate is 94%, barely useful," she replied, checking the equipment with a low head, and sweating all over the head. "But some modules in the surveyor are damaged, and if you come to this place next time, the efficiency will be lower." "Next time?" Old Gray snorted and wiped the sweat from his face. "Young man, I don't want to take this happen again. I almost lost my life." I didn't answer, but walked to the porthole and looked at the darkness outside. The gravitational waves of black purity are becoming more and more frequent and have become higher and higher, which shows that it may be able to expand faster than we expected. If the time-space anchor is not found, the silver galaxy will really be ruined. "Kel, the communication has a signal," Leah suddenly said, with a hint of confusion in her voice. "It's not Victor, it's an unfamiliar frequency, like a distress signal." "Wanting number?" I raised my eyebrows and walked to her. "Who will send a message for help in such a ghost place in the dark area?" "I don't know, the signal is very weak, and the content is constantly going on." She adjusted the equipment and then made a vague sound. "It sounds like an Alliance code, but it's a little weird." I put on my headphones and listened carefully to the audio. It is indeed the standard help format of the Alliance, but there is a strange response in the sound, as if it was transmitted from a very far place, not even as if it was issued by humans. "Save, we, Black, Core, danger." The sound suddenly stopped, and the last few words made a slight silence in my heart. "Black Core?" Old Gray's face became even more difficult to see when he heard this. "Young man, this signal is not in opposition. Who would be so stupid that he went to the Haging Core to ask for help? The first teams in the Alliance here dare not approach. Maybe it's a trap." Leah replenished, her eyes flashing with a sense of alertness. "Victor may be leading us past this way." I was silent for a while, and the possibility of flying in my brain was changing. The helping signal is indeed suspicious, but what if it is really an Alliance explorer or other survivor? We can't just ignore it, but if it's really Victor's trap, it would have been like sending death in the past. Record the coordinates of the signal source first. I finally opened my mouth and my language was settled. "We don't go directly, but we can't be completely unobstructed." "Leah, analyze the true feelings of the signal, Old Gray, adjust the route, move towards the second detection point, but maintain a safe distance from the signal source." Both of them were staring, even though their faces were not very good-looking. I know that this decision is risky, but as a team leader, I must find a way out of all kinds of uncertainties. The engine of dawn growled again, carrying us through the darkness and heading towards the unknown. The black outside the porthole looked like a huge mouth, quietly waiting for our arrival. I felt my heart beating faster and faster, as if I had expected something, but I couldn't tell what it was. The dangers in the dark area are far more than gravitational waves and debris flows, the secrets of darkness, the silence of Victor, and the strange distress signal. Everything is like a huge net, slowly retracting. "Kel, the gravitational field data at the second detection point is abnormal." Leah's voice sounded again, breaking my thoughts. "It's like a shitting that someone is interfering, maybe Victor's subordinates have arrived there." I bit my teeth tightly and felt the pressure coming down like a mountain. It seems that this journey is far from over, and bigger challenges are waiting for us. Dawn was moving forward in the darkness of the dark area, and the engine's growl was like a dying wilderness that might stop at any time. The black purplish outside the porthole was still the deep purplish that swallowed everything, and the occasionally flashed blue-purple arc of light made people creepy. I stood in the middle of the guide, staring at the jumping data on Leah's screen, and my heart felt like a big rock was pressing down. The gravitational scene at the second detection point is abnormal, like a trace of someone interfering. It is most likely that the Victor nuclear eating has arrived there. If our broken ship hits his warship, there will be no waste left. "Leah, can the source of the interference signal be located? I asked, with a burst of fatigue in the voice. The rotation of the ladder over the past few days made my eyes almost silence, but my brain didn't dare to relax at all. I'm trying, but the radiation interference of the black rays is too strong, and the positioning error may be several hundred kilometers. Leah's fingers danced on the virtual keyboard, and the waveform image on the screen jumped in a whirlwind image. But I can confirm that the frequency of interference signal is very similar to Victor's communication characteristics, and it probably is. 80%? Old Gray hummed from the side of the fucking platform, wiped his sweat impatiently. Little girl, it's 80% not enough. We can't afford to catch this broken boat. Kel, why don't we go over and stop stomping the detection point directly, so as not to hit the helping boy? I raised my eyebrows and didn't answer immediately. Old Gray said it makes sense. Victor's men had reinstalled warships, and firepower could turn us into cosmic foes. But the second detection point is the key point to the core of the Black Purity, and the records in the Alliance file library show that the traces of the time and space anchors are likely to be there. If we go through it, not only waste time, but also miss the only opportunity. The black tin will not wait for us, it is swallowing more galaxies every minute and every second. No, I can't spoil it. I finally open my mouth, and my language must be a little unfamiliar with me. We have to go and explore the test points. Even if Victor is waiting there, we have to be hard. Leah continues to analyze the interference signal to see if he can find his specific location. Old Gray, keep the line, keep the shield open, and be ready to raid at any time. Old Gray curled his lips, as if he was very upset, but he still pointed and muttered, "Young man, you are chasing your life." Leah didn't say anything, but just lowered her head and continued to knock on the keyboard. The data on the screen rolled like a waterfall. When dawn was approaching the second detection point, the tightness in the air could not be dissolved. In the dark outside the porthole, you can see some floating bones, like starship fragments torn to pieces by black scattered, slowly rotating in the gravitational field. The data on the instrument display shows that the gravitational field here is more distinct than the first detection point, and there are frequent small-scale time and space distortions, like someone has moved his hands in this area. Kel, the source of the interference signal has been locked. Leah suddenly raised her head, and a light flashed in her gray eyes. Just in the core area of the survey site, less than 500 kilometers away from us. The signal strength is very high, like deliberately exposing the location and waiting for us to pass. Intentionally exposed? My heart was tightened, and my brain flew quickly with various possibilities. The guy Victor slid like a mud pear, usually hiding deeper than anyone else. Now, in the active exposure position, it is probably a trap. But we didn't have to choose, the line of the time and space anchor is there, and we can't do it if we don't go. Old Gray, slow down and keep the distance. I gritted my teeth and felt sweaty all over my palms. Leah, start the far distance detector, first look at the situation there, don't let us crash into it. The speed of dawn slowed down, like a cautious cat, approaching the core of the detection point. When the screen of the far distance detector was transmitted back, my heartbeat was almost stopped. A huge warship is displayed on the screen, all over the black, and the body is filled with strange runes, like some kind of sacrificial pattern. That was definitely the soul-devouring number of Victor's flag, with several small guards stationed around it. At first glance, the firepower configuration was not something we could deal with. "See Ghost, this guy is really here." Old Gray replied, sweating all over his head. "Young man, our broken ship is not their opponent, it's still time to withdraw." "I can't withdraw." I slammed my head, my voice as low as it was coming out of my teeth. The line of the time and space anchor is in that area. If we run now, it is equivalent to giving up the entire mission. Leah, is there any way to go past them and go directly into the core of the exploration point? Yes, but the risk is very high. Leah clicked the screen and adjusted a tortuous line. We can use the debris flow around the detection point as a mask to approach the core from the side wings. But the debris flow is very dense, and the shield load may directly pour to the limits or even collapse. Crash? Old Gray snorted, full of disdain. Little girl, you're letting us die. Don't make a noise. I stopped him and felt like my head was almost blowing. Leah, figure out the safest way and try to reduce the risk. Old Gray, listen to her, we have to try it. Old Gray still wanted to say something, but looked at my blue face and closed his mouth. Dawn began to move along the road planned by Leah. The ship shuttled through the debris, and was often hit by the slaughter of small pieces, making a stern sound. The shield load quickly climbed to more than 90%, and the alarm sounded like a death talisman. The shield is loaded 93%, the system has passed the warning. Leah's voice finally brought a hurried moment. If there is another impact, we might dash. Before he finished speaking, a familiar shot suddenly came from the communication device. Dr. Kale, you really dare to come. I knew you wouldn't give up the time and space anchor, but the game ended here. I suddenly looked at the communication equipment. It was Victor Nuclear Eater, and this guy really found us. The next moment, a few dazzling red lights lit out of the porthole. It was the signal for the main gun of the soul-devouring sign. They were ready to fire. Old Gray, hurry and avoid it. I yelled, feeling my heart almost jumping out of my chest. It's too late. Old Gray gritted his teeth and pulled the slug suddenly. Dawn's number turned rapidly, trying to avoid the fire. But the firepower of the soul-devouring number was too strong. The first energy cannon was flying over the hull, directly knocking out 10% of the energy of the shield. The ship shook violently, as if it would fall apart at any time. The shield is loading 99.5%, and the system is about to collapse. Leah's voice came from the communication device, rarely bringing a panic. One more shot, we'll be done. Leah, how far is it to the core area? I asked, and the sound was as sandy as an old man. It's less than 200 kilometers, but the debris flow density is higher, and the shield cannot be held back. She replied, and her fingers quickly tapped the keyboard and tried to adjust the shield distribution. Don't worry, hard. I bit my teeth and felt like a crazy person. Old Gray, go forward at full speed, don't worry about artillery fire, and move into the core area. Old Gray made a rough sentence, but still pushed the acceleration rod down. The dawn was like a wounded wilderness, roaring into the debris flow. The ship was hit by countless bones, and the warning sound was as sharp as if it was about to penetrate the eardrum. The second artillery fire from soul-devouring number 1 came again, and this time it hit the stern. The shield finally collapsed, the outer armor of the ship was torn a big hole, and the warning signal for air leakage was pointed at. The stern of the boat is damaged, and the power of the power system is reduced by 30%. Leah's voice shook. We can't get rid of the core area. I have to be able to hold on if I can't hold on. I yelled, feeling like I was about to collapse. Old Gray, how far is it? 50 kilometers, he replied, his face full of sweat. But the engine is too hot and may explode at any time. I didn't say anything anymore, just grabbed the handrail of the seat tightly and stared at the core area that was getting closer and closer outside the porthole. It's the time and space anchor. Leah suddenly exclaimed, with a silk in her voice, and she couldn't believe it. Its energy waves are exactly the same as the database description. We found it. But before I could relax my voice, Victor's voice came from the communication device, bringing a burst of heat. Kel, you really found it. But the time and space anchor is mine. Don't try to get involved in God's grace. The next moment, the soul-devouring number accelerated its impulse, and the surrounding guards began to encircle. The firepower network was like a big network, trapping us tightly. The engine of dawn finally sounded a warning sound, and it stopped at all. The ship floated powerlessly in the gravitational field, like a lamb to be slaughtered. Kel, we have no way. Old Gray's voice was low and desperate, as if he had admitted his failure for the first time. This broken ship cannot escape. Victor will turn us into scum. I bit my teeth tightly, and my brain flew with various possibilities. The time and space anchor is right in front of us, but we are trapped here, and there is no chance to get close to us. Is it really time to stop here? No, I can't accept it. the Silver River Galaxy is still waiting for us, those galaxies that have been swallowed by the Black Purgation, those who have lost their homes. I can't just give up. Leah, what are the characteristics of the energy fluctuations of the time and space anchor? I suddenly asked, with a crazy sound in my voice. She was stunned for a moment, as if she hadn't expected that I would still ask this question at this time, but she still answered quickly. Its volatility frequency can interfere with the gravitational field of blackness, and may even have a short and stable time-space structure, but the specific mechanism is unknown and there is no record in the file library. Distract the gravity field? My eyes lit up, and a crazy idea suddenly appeared in my brain. Leah, can I use the Dawn communication system to simulate its fluctuation frequency, create a temporary interference scene, and trap Victor's fleet? It's okay in theory, but the power of the communication system is not small, the interference range is very small, and it will be damaged. Leah's language brings a piece of hesitation. More importantly, this may trigger an abnormal reaction of darkness and the consequences are unpredictable. It's better not to predict than to sit and wait. I said, gritting my teeth, feeling like a chap. Do it, Leah, do it now. Old Gray, prepare for the last sprint, towards the time and space anchor. Neither of them objected anymore, even though their faces were hard to see. Leah quickly adjusted the communication system, the data on the screen jumped wildly, and the Dawn began to make a harsh buzzing sound, as if it would explode at any time. The next moment, an invisible wave spread from the ship, and the gravitational field around it suddenly blew violently, and the soul-devouring number and the navigation carriage of the guards became chaotic in an instant, as if they were being grabbed by something. The interference scene has taken effect. Leah was shocked, with a silk in her voice. Victor's fleet is trapped, but after the communication system is loaded, it will be completely destroyed in 30 seconds. 30 seconds, it's over. I yelled and turned to Old Gray. Putting past, now. Old Gray bit his teeth tightly and suddenly activated the power of the preparatory power. The Dawn sword was like a dying wilderness, making the last roar, heading towards the time and space anchor. The scene outside the porthole was completely distorted, and time and space seemed to be torn apart. The low birds were roaring in the dark, like black roaring. 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. The Dawn finally reached the edge of the time and space anchor. The huge structure was so close that it emitted a dark blue light, like a taboo thing. My heart beats so fast that it's about to explode, but my brain is so awake. Leah, what are the conditions required to start the time-space anchor? I asked. The sound of sand was as if it was pulled out of my throat. A core energy source is needed, directly connected to its control center, she replied, tapping the keyboard quickly and trying to crack the interface of the device. But its energy demand is extremely high, and the Dawn engine may not be small, and it even needs to sacrifice the entire ship's power system. Sacrifice? I felt a sudden sigh in my heart and understood what she meant. Turning the time-space anchor may mean that the Dawn will never go back, we will be trapped here and even swallowed by the Black Selves. But I don't have to choose. The gravitational waves of the Black Purge are getting stronger and stronger. Although Victor's fleet is trapped, the interference scene will soon fail. If the time anchor is not activated now, the River Galaxy will be really no longer saved. Do it. I said softly, my vogue must be unfamiliar with myself. Leah, connect the Dawn engine to the time-space anchor and start it. Old Gray, prepare for the escape. If there is a chance, take everyone away. Kel, you're crazy. Old Gray roared, his face full of disbelief. What do you want to fuck? Stay and die? Someone has to stay to ensure that the time-space anchors move normally. I reluctantly smiled and felt empty in my heart. Old man, I knew from the beginning that I might not be able to go back to this mission. You go, the Silver River needs you. Old Gray wanted to say something, but when he looked at me, he finally closed his mouth, and there was a complex emotion in his eyes. Leah didn't say anything, but just silently clicked and started connecting the interface between the engine and the time and space anchor. The next moment, the engine of Dawn let out a low growl, all the energy was drained, and the ship began to vibrate violently. The dark blue light of the time and space anchor became brighter and brighter, and the gravitational field around it suddenly stabilized, and the black penis spread speed seemed to have been pressed down the pause key. The time and space anchor has been successfully started. Leah's voice shook with a shiver. The gravitational field of black purity is shrinking, but there are abnormal energy fluctuations, transmitted from the core area, like some kind of reaction. My heart slammed in my heart and looked out the porthole. A dazzling light suddenly lit up from the deep black and purplish, as if something was awakened. The low voice of the ox was getting more and more disturbing, making people's eardrums hurt. "What is it?" I asked, feeling cold sweat all over my back. "I don't know, but the structure of energy fluctuations, like the code signal detected before." Leah's voice finally brought fear. "Kel, we probably put something we shouldn't put." I clenched my teeth and flashed the comments about black selves in the Alliance file library. It is not just a black hole, but a taboo, which may be ascertain will at the beginning of the universe's birth. Starting the time-space anchor may have prevented its expansion, but it also awakened something even more terrifying. "The escape gear is ready." Old Gray's voice sounded, with a hurricane. "Kel, go quickly, it's still time now." I shook my head and looked at the brighter and brighter light outside the porthole, feeling a sense of heaviness in my heart that I couldn't describe. "Old Gray, take Leah and everyone, I'll stay. If that thing is really awakened, someone has to stop it." "You." Old Gray's voice choked, as if he wanted to fool me, but in the end he only said, "Young man, take care of me." The sound of the escape cargo ejected from behind the ship and I knew they were gone. The skeleton of dawn floated slowly in the gravitational field, and the light of the time and space anchor was still dazzling, while the light from the dark and deep light was getting closer and closer, as if some kind of giant beast was scattering its eyes. I sat in the corner, looking at the endless darkness, the image of the galaxy in my brain, and the people who were swallowed by the black purity. Maybe that's my end, but I've at least won a line of animal for the silver galaxy. The black and white sing sounds are becoming more and more interesting, like a whisper of some ancient secret. I closed my eyes and waited for the unknown to arrive.